Итак, сегодня 18 июля. Мы в Калгари. Это даунтаун. Здесь Рамада, отель. Мы очень хорошо отдохнули. Спали отлично. Кофе сейчас попили. Тут у нас 2 кровати. Вот мы собираемся. Через 5 минут выходим. Итак, мы в гостинице Рамада. Даунтаун Калгари. Драйвер ready. Это наша группа.
Okay, so very sturdy. Has a revolving restaurant. Some of you went up there last night. What did you think of the view? See all these pieces of wood. Okay, now they're all famous people. Okay, but before, when it was the Olympics, that was the different flags of the different nations that participated. Okay, so it stands at 58 stories in height. Have a look on your right hand side at this statue here. I like that, the family of men. Okay, that is a statue. Okay, so Calgary has a nice thing where they continue to keep all the park space available. Coming up on your right hand side, have a look at this. Right hand side. Okay, it's from a Brazilian artist. Okay, and that is the infant's face. It stands at 12 meters in height. Okay, and that is to show off the freedom and spirit of young kids. Okay, skinny at the bottom, but they're condos and they all have a balcony. So though they all look like little cubes, I don't know if you saw it from different angles. Yeah, it's an interesting looking building. Now at night, it lights up so that it looks like the Northern Lights, which is really cool. Yeah. Different colonies, okay? Lots of different colonies everywhere across the lands. Obviously, there you go. There's a great picture of the oil fields and the agriculture for Alberta. I learned the history of that. So it was in French in power, and then it was the Brits in power, and French in power, and England in power, and back and forth it went. So then eventually the Brits kind of took over, and then they decided that they were going to make some of the rules. So they did. And then we decided that these colonies were going to come together and try to become a country, but there was many rules about it. So what happened is that 4 colonies, we'll call them at the time, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, okay, and Nova Scotia, okay, they decided, let's have a meeting and see if we can combine and become a bigger colony or a country. So they did that in Prince Edward Island, okay. Prince Edward Island is a little island. It's one of our provinces. Now, one of the stipulations was that they could only become a country if they built a transcontinental railway from one end to the other, east to west, west to
Canada.
east, much like you guys did in the US, right? And the Australians, you guys have a big rail system. It's of Manitoba, okay? That's kind of in the middle of the country. So you know that Canada is from coast to coast is approximately 6,500 miles, okay? Or almost close to 9,000 kilometers, all right? Space, okay? So we'll talk a little bit more about that because we're going to get to the Stampede grounds. This is where it all went down for the last 10 days. We're going to drive by. You won't see too much, but we'll get
China City.
All the events, and then at night it was the concert. You can see the Saddle Dome, that funny shaped building.
Там за деревьями Bow River, B-O-W. Вот в Калгари Bow River. Так, здесь у нас будет завтрак, а потом тур. Казалин Алле. Веранда. Там, наверное, Bow River. Все ясно. Это где мы? Но факт тут washroom очень приличная. Все в дереве. Ну, какая вы здесь симпатичная, а? Все красиво здесь. Alberta. So there is lake. Вот лейк. Это Gasoline Company. В общем, это музей. Это лейк. Так, Pretty. Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. Смотри. Old mobile. Надюша, да, на брекфаст пришли. Да. Да.
They were good and they enjoyed the party. They were
Вау. Это гусберри. Гусберри, да. Видишь, вот так снимается. И как она кисленькая, вкусненькая. Okay. How you like it? Yeah. So, yeah, gooseberry. Гусиная ягода. Да, интересно. О, да. Вкусно.
We're not going too far, so as you're eating your breakfast. So in here, as Dominic mentioned, pretty much every car has been donated by one man named Ron Carey, and all of these cars and gas pumps have been refurbished to be in essentially working order. So they look nice and shiny, but also their engines are also in pristine condition. So if on our tour today you see a car that you really like, throw some gas in it. You can see how good our security is. Try to drive it out. That's with exception to good old Rusty over here. You could try. I'm not sure how well that would go for you. That we have here, they're all in chronological order. So the first three ones that we have over here, these are from 1910. So these are actually our pre-visible gas pumps. So as you can tell, they're kind of just trying to figure out what a gas pump really looks like. They don't quite know what they're doing yet. And if you were to get your gas from one of these pumps, you wouldn't have any way to know what kind of gas you're getting. You wouldn't also know the quality of the gas, or there's nothing really here to tell you how much gas you're getting. So, you know, these weren't always the most efficient gas pumps over here, and if you had a gas station attendant who was really trying to cheap you out, you may not necessarily get the best deal on that. So these pre-visible gas pumps, they didn't last too long, and they were actually later swapped out for our visible gas pumps right over here. And considering the price of gas nowadays, I would much rather be getting my gas out of one of these fancy pumps. Have a better idea for the quality of the gas. And you can see that these are all 10 gallons here, so you know how much gas you're getting, theoretically. If you actually kind of have a look at them, they're all 10 gallons, but they all look a little bit different. And that's because... All right, so these all, again, also go in chronological order. So the first car that we have here is our 1912 Little Roadster. You probably don't see the Little brand around anymore, and that's because this was actually later absorbed by Chevrolet. I think this one's pretty cute. You have the little seat on there.
$650
very fancy.
стоило.
But the one car, folks. So this one here was created by the lovely Henry Ford, who created everybody's favorite 40-hour work week, which we all just love so much. And that's because Henry Ford, he wanted to create a car that was accessible and affordable to an average family who earned a decent salary. And so to do that, he revolutionized the way that we work. And so he created the assembly line, and he established the 40-hour work week, so that car, pretty obvious, you know, when you have a look at it, it doesn't quite look like the other cars that we see here, which makes sense since this one's from 1909. And one of the biggest differences you'll notice is actually in the wheels. They look kind of like wagon wheels. And what you'll notice a lot about these cars from the 1910s is that their tires are actually solid rubber. So with it being front wheel drive, that it can ride significantly lower than the other cars that we were looking at from the 1910s. This car was definitely a wealthy person's car. If you wanted to buy this car, it would cost you the same price as about 3 houses at the time. So, pretty expensive car. I think that this one would be fantastic for a family road trip because I'm sure you can tell, the kids are being loud and rowdy, you know. Just put them in the back seat over there and
Just hit a big bump and they're gone.
Exactly,
Yes,
yeah.
solved the problem.
So a whole special compartment just for your golf clubs, because why not? If you're that rich, you know, go ahead and do it. Start to hit. Still a very nice car, especially for the Great Depression, but about a third of the price of our L29 Cord. So this would have been more similar to the Model T from 1910 in that it was an average family car. So this one has our Auburn 12, it has our V12 engine in here. And so this one, you can see we have a nice little, how much cars have really changed the way that we actually live our lives. With the invention of the car, people were able to start living farther away from where they worked. So we got a lot of city sprawl as you've been driving around Calgary, and probably similar in the United States. Cities tend to sprawl now as you can drive. And so, as we've been moving through time, this brings us to the 1950s now. The reason why we have this car as this lovely pink color is actually because this was the most popular paint color of the year in the 1950s. The second most popular color was actually just this blue right over here. Yeah, of course you have a lovely camper here. Really, people were just a little bit smaller back then. Pretty tiny. Yeah. Able to build a regular home because it's just all prairies here. We didn't have any trees. So a lot of people actually started off with a sod shack.
Надюша, это же плуг. Да.
Don't do that.
Так, стой, Диана, быстрее поверни. Да. Давай, ты давай. Давай.
Enjoy the lift? Going down.
Так. Downstairs.
So what happened is, he had about 30 cars on his property. His wife told him to get rid of the cars or she was going to get rid of him. You know, the classic love story right there. Mr. Carey, he was a oil and gas guy who came from Saskatchewan. So it's a very, very typical Alberta guy. None of us actually grew up here. We're all from somewhere else. I myself, I'm from Winnipeg. Better or worse. Anyways, so here at Gasoline Alley, we started inside of our historical village in just the Burns barn. We were a collection of about 20 cars in 900 square feet. This building, built in 2008, was a huge, huge donation by Mr. Carey, Mr. Haskane, and the Taylor family right there. They're kind of our always historically
Руль и
accurate.
справа, может быть, и
I
слева.
mean, Model Ts, yes, you get any color as long as it was black. Shiny black. That right there was Star's first attempt and most major attempt to
Всё,
make a
pickup.
specific truck for a specific job. Those Stars, they were great trucks first and foremost, and they were pretty decent little trucks right there.
Траву. Very interesting. Вездеход такой. Шины кругом пойдет. Если не тянет мотор, то потянет цепь.
In existence, the only singular one, as corroborated by Mercedes-Benz themselves. Now, this was found in New Zealand, actually, and it was found as the front cross member, the bottom of the oil pan, the steering column still sticking up for some reason, is what it is. One of the chain drive axles and the rest of the frame was nice rusted out lines on the ground right now. Where it will stay? Well, it will stay until we are no longer a museum anymore. Very, very
$3
proud.
million Canadian dollars.
Solid rubber. Yes, sir. Solid. Oh. Mr. Carey found it in 2019, donated it here. It was the last car in our collection, and therefore one of the very few that have been unrestored. Now, the 3-cylinder, 3-liter engine, like I said, there's a bit of a theme going on here. This is the beginning of cars when they were not called cars. This is a auto wagon, meaning that Chase, a wagon maker, a very successful wagon carriage maker, they said, how hard can it be to design and put an engine into here? Evidently very hard. Terribly, terribly unreliable, these Chase machines. Bought out by General Motors, actually, Monsieur Chevrolet, in the 1920s. 1920s, there we go. Sorry, a lot of facts going around in my brain right now. Not always 100%. So, well, very, very safe right here. Acetylene headlamps. The gas tank is right underneath your derriere right there.
Yep.
And it's fantastic. So we have the hood taken off of this one just to show how the crank start worked. When you cranked it, it went through. There was a series of magnets that created an electric current. You spun it, spun the little copper inside. That's what created the sparks. But can anyone tell? 1935, bad times for North America. Not
They're wonderful.
the 1915 locomotive touring car. Look at it. It is massive. It is everything you want. Iron wheels. Iron wheels are what those would be. And in 1915, this was not a car that you drove. This was a car you were driven in. We are talking politicians, gangsters, stuff like that, driving in this car. Ed, has anyone seen Titanic?
Yeah.
You know this car? It's not that car from the scenes. Get your minds out of the gut.
Да. Тут Gasoline Alley Museum. На Gasoline Alley. Ага, ты сфотографировала, да? Очень красиво.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I thought they did a good job.
Calgary похоже на Денвер, Колорадо. Здесь очень много солнечных дней, почти что круглый год. Но однако может быть снег. Вчера был град. Окружено горами.
The warmest recorded temperature in Canada was in Lytton, which is in British Columbia. And they had 3 consecutive days where it went from 47.3 to 47.9 Celsius. Yeah. And then it burnt up the next week because they had a big fire and the whole town got wiped out. You've probably seen it on the news.
Завтра мы можем проснуться в снегу, а днем может быть до 70 градусов тепла.
A lot bigger. 10. It's 15 feet wider. America, right? But we're really good. All of us are really good friends. And yeah, and it's a lot of fun. So we're gonna play a song that compares some Canadian stuff to American stuff. Okay, Aussies, I don't know. We don't really have much of a deal with Aussies except all of our money. To go. Oh, that's awesome.
Сейчас. Смотри, сколько флагов, да. Здесь школа.